What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Brian Brown Knives Yeager M. Now, the Yeager M from Brian Brown is a knife that I got introduced from Jake from Bearded Gear. He did a review of this knife, or a version of this knife, probably not too long ago. Maybe some time ago, 8-10 months maybe. And he did a review of that, and then he did a comparison between this knife and one of the Vero Engineering knives, one that looks very, very similar. I'm blanking on the name. Maybe the Axon, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in the end, I didn't have either. And in the end, he concluded that he would sell one of them, and he was gonna keep this one. So, I decided they look similar. So I decided if I was gonna give one a chance, I was gonna give this one a chance. And generally, my blades are typically not in a Wharncliffe type blade, but I'm always in the market for a little bit of variety of something and trying out new makers, and so that's how I decided to give this knife a shot. So let me give you a tour of the knife. What you got here is a blade that is a Wharncliffe of M390 steel. I don't think it's marked anywhere, but it's M390 steel. You've got a hollow ground Wharncliffe, and hopefully, let me see if I can do this. Maybe that focuses. It's ground really thin. It's hollow ground, and so you've got this hollow grind with a swedge coming down, a little bit of a flat. You've got this deployment hole here that works really, really well. This version is black micarta with black DLC titanium and Mokuti pivot collars, and this is a version that was exclusive to Knifejoy. I'm trying to think. It probably was released probably 2-3 months ago, maybe, and I've been carrying it on and off during that time. So what we have is, like I said, a black micarta, and it's done so well that it's, the wear of the micarta, and when you hold it, it starts to kind of blend in with the black DLC titanium, and it looks really nice, and the black and the Mokuti just pops. I think it's really, really attractive. You've got a flipper tab for deployment. It's running on bearings, and let me see the length of the blade. A little under 3¼ inches, right around there. So it's not a huge knife. So before we get started, let me jump into a size comparison here. Here it is against the Para 2 and the Para 3. So as you can see, it's a really nice size knife. Close to 3¼ is a really nice size blade for me, and so the size of the knife is actually very, very good. It carries relatively well. I'm going to compare it here to the Para 3. So you can see in the pocket, it's going to feel in length similar to a Para 3, but a little bit narrower in that dimension right there. Now, if we compare it to the Benchmade bug out, that's what it looks like right there, and the mini bug out. So what you have here is probably in dimension, in length, it's very similar to the full-size bug out. It's a little chunkier. If we compare the thicknesses, you can see. So it's a thicker blade than the bug out, and it's thicker handles. But lengthwise, it's very similar. But it carries probably closer. I think, for carry, I think the best comparison in the pocket is probably against the Para 3. So let's start with ergonomics, okay? And the ergonomics, are not great in my hands. They're decent. They're okay. But let me tell you my problem. They've done this finger groove here, and they've oversized it. And I think the intent is to get 2 fingers into this groove and then 2 fingers in the flat in the back here. But what it does is it's a little bit narrow for 2 of my fingers. Maybe I've got fat fingers, I wear large gloves, but it feels like my 2 fingers, the ones in the front here, they don't quite make it. They feel squished. So I would hope that either they move this point a little bit further back, or that they move it forward so that it's just 1 finger groove and then the rest you got flat. But as it is, it wants to fall right there in the middle, but in my large hands, it kind of squishes. It makes the space feel very constrained right here. Now, that said, other than that, I think there's some chamfering right at the edges, and this contouring, and the back and the pocket clip, the way it's shaped, it feels really nicely in the hand. It's a little bit of a hot spot. This point right here gets very close to the edge here, and what it does is when your hand is it contours around the handle, it kind of molds towards handle, you can feel that point in your hand. I think it's the curvature of the pocket clip in this direction makes this a hot spot. So it's not, I wouldn't call them bad, but I think there's a couple of things that I would change, definitely, at least in my hands. Now, they've got a choil here, but it's kind of a smaller choil. So if I compare to, obviously the ones in the paramilitaries are much more generous. But hopefully you can tell here, you can get a full finger choil, a full finger on the choil, I'm sorry. But here, it's almost like you get kind of just a little bit of one phalange, right? One tip of the finger. I don't think it's meant to be carried that way. So the ergonomics are okay, but I wouldn't say that it's a strongly ergonomic knife. Now, action, it's a tale of kind of two actions. Deployment is really snappy, is really reliable. The detent is a little bit on the strong side, and so I think it's because the lock bar tension is a little bit high. The disengagement, you have really good access and you can push that lock bar, but it is a little bit of a harder lock bar to disengage. And it's not because it's getting stuck, and there's no lock stick whatsoever. Oh, by the way, there's a lock bar insert, I forgot to mention that, and it acts as an over travel stop, just for completeness. But so you can access it freely, and you can push without any problems, but it requires a little bit of a harder push. And because it requires a harder push, that increases the detent. Now, when you deploy it with the middle finger flick, it's actually very good. I think it's probably a better deployment method. It feels like you get more lever it's because you get more lever from here to here, where your finger lands naturally to deploy the knife. You get a lot more lever than from here to here, where the flipper tab is. So it feels like the detent is lighter when you middle finger flick the knife. Now, because the lock bar tension is strong, this doesn't quite drop. It requires a little bit of coaxing. Maybe it'll break in. I don't think I've used it enough and flicked it enough to say whether it's broken in. Maybe it does. If it does, I'll post an update for it. Now, the cutting performance on the knife is actually outstanding. So it's not thin blade stock. Let me try and show you the thickness against, so there's the thickness against the Para 3. Okay, so it's got a thicker blade than the Para 3. Okay, but a Wharncliffe, it's more meant for draw cuts, right? You're going in and draw cutting that way. And for those kinds of cuts, like let's say a sheet of leather on a flat surface, or cardboard on a flat surface, or even food preparation, cutting steak, those kinds of things, this is an outstanding cutter because it gets down to that ridiculously thin edge, this hollow. It's a tall blade, and it's a hollow from this point to that point, so it comes down to a screaming sharp edge. This is a laser beam. It cuts really, really well. Now, pushing through cardboard, you'll find that the initial cut goes really, really well, and then it gets thick back here. It gets much thicker than the Paramilitary 3 or the Para 2, and what that does is you start to struggle to push through cardboard. So, but for all of the draw cuts and shallow cuts, this is one of the best cutters out there. It's almost like, I think the one that's more similar to is the CKF Evo 2.0. Where it has a really tall blade. Oh, review coming on the Evo 2.0. But it just comes down to a really, really thin edge. It's just hopefully this is coming across here, the thinness of the blade. But even what I'm showing on the video, you have to almost feel it, and it's just an incredible slicer. It's really, really good at cutting, especially like I said, shallow cuts in draw cuts. Obviously, opening packages, this is just far overkill for opening packages. Now, I am not 100%. I think Reate makes these, but I am not 100% on that. But regardless of who's making it, the fit and finish is outstanding. The micarta inlay on this titanium frame, there's absolutely zero gaps anywhere. It's very well fit. The Mokuti just looks so attractive. I'm trying to make sure that it catches the light so that you see all of the Mokuti, with the and then the black hardware, it has this beautiful stone washed finish on the blade. No rounding of the transition between the hollow and the flat and the swedge. It's got a really effective milled pocket clip. The fit and finish is outstanding. I don't know if Reate makes it, but if Reate doesn't make it, then this is right up there with Reate type quality. If you have any of the Reate made knives, any of the Leon Moss stuff, any of Chavez's stuff, any of Peña's stuff, this is kind of the level of quality that you can expect from the Brian Brown Yeager. Now, Brian Brown also does custom knives, so this is kind of his production line, and I think I believe Reate makes it. There's just a feeling on some of these knives, but anyways, I think Reate makes it, and the fit and finish it's just outstanding. Now, finally, airing of grievances. What I don't like about the knife, I mentioned some of them. Really, this finger groove, I think it should either be short for one finger or extended a little bit. Now, if you have medium-sized hands or small-sized hands, it'll fit in your hand very well. Jake from Bearded Gear always says that he has medium hands, but he feels, he feels a medium-sized glove really, really well. So maybe it fits better in his hands. I do think that a hand a little bit smaller than my medium or smaller hand, you will be much more comfortable with the two fingers in this large groove. And I think that the pocket clip the fact that it's pointing that way, I understand what they do it, so that when it hangs, well, actually when it hangs, well, I don't know, the aesthetic of this, for design, I think makes it so that when you're holding it, this point is too close to where your hand kind of molds around the knife, so it hits right here. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is I love the fact that he put his maker's mark back here. It's a really good spot. It prevents billboarding on the blade, and I think that's a really nice detail. I think they did it well. Other than that, I think I would highly recommend this knife. It's not inexpensive. It's a fairly expensive knife. This one came in at $400. I'm not sure, they're hard to get, so it's one of those that you have to sign up and wait for a drop and be Johnny on the spot with your mouse. But this one was Knifejoy, and with the black bicarta and the Mokuti, this one was $400. Not sure what the other ones come in at. If you don't get the Mokuti, there hasn't been a drop where I've been able to get it at, in a different configuration. So, but I would say that you're probably expecting to pay, probably call it $350 for a non-Mokuti version of this knife. I think it's an excellent knife. I think it's a really nice design, excellent fit and finish, really nice deployment action, even if it takes a little coaxing, multiple deployment methods, premium materials, excellent fit and finish, and a blade that's just a laser beam. I think this is an excellent tool. It's a beautiful knife and it's very well done. And guys, if this video helps you, if you think I earned it, then like and subscribe. I always tell you not to hit the notification buttons. Nobody likes it. Any more emails that we already get. You know where to find me if you like my videos. And until I see you at the next one, take care.